Hey YouTube, Shane Withenshaw here, RSW Guitars. I've got a lot of questions on people wanting to swap out their bridges for Floyd roses. I'm assuming, well, the Floyd rose video from the Gravedigger build is by far has the most views, and I'm guessing that's why. But there's really no right and wrong answer for this. I mean, you could bastardize a guitar to any point to get anything to fit on it. Is it going to look good? Is it going to operate good? Okay, so here's the thing about swapping out bridges on guitars. I'm going to draw a quick picture of a, just a tune-o-matic type of bridge or whatever. You got the little string saddle up there and the little, this is the body of it with the little screw for the intonation or whatever. And then you got the thumb screwed, and then you've got, the bushing here, and the bushing sits inside the body, or I guess it would be here. Okay, so, and then you got your body here. Now, because the saddle is way up here on top of this bridge, the very top of it, and these are pretty high bridges to begin with, I mean, for the design. They're great bridges, and there's a reason why they have to be made that high. It's just the way that they've been designed, because you have, all these holes here and these bolts coming through here to adjust the intonation and everything. This block here has to be a certain height in order for it to be, structurally sound, right? But the problem with them is that the saddle sits here, up here at the top of the bridge. So that you run into a problem here because this is so high up off the body. What happens is, if you were to have a straight neck here, okay, so say we got a straight neck here, and we have our nut over here, okay. If this were to have a straight neck, then when the string comes up over this saddle and comes back down and goes over to our nut, you can see the obvious problem here, right? Right, you can't have that. I mean, the action on the upper frets here, like these are going to be the upper frets. It's going to be crazy, right? Nobody wants to play a guitar like that, right? So what they do to correct that is they put a back angle on the neck, okay? What they've done is they basically just have the neck come back on an angle like this, and it takes care of that problem. So in order to put a Floyd rose on a bridge, or a Floyd rose bridge on a guitar like this, in some instances it's just really not possible. In other instances it's really a lot of work, and this is why. You look at this tune-o-matic, and then you look at a Floyd rose, okay? So you have your Floyd rose with your bass plate, and you got your little tail here with your tuners, and what you have is, it's basically just a flat plate with saddles on it, okay? The difference is that the string is coming into the bridge at a way different spot on this type of bridge, okay? It's coming in down here. The saddles are actually at the bottom of the bridge instead of the top, right? So what happens is, if you go to put a Floyd rose on this guitar, your string's going to come off the saddle like this, and it's going to go to the nut, which is over here. But oh, look at this. Oh no. That's not going to sound very good. So there's a reason why. Now, I mean, if this is a bolt-on neck, you're probably going to be able to accommodate it, whether you take the neck off and shave down the heel, so, and also take the angle off of the heel so that it sits flat. Yeah, you can do all that, right? And it'll probably work for you. On a neck through, that's not going to work, okay, because this whole neck blank here has been cut flat here, and then it's been cut back on an angle here, and it's all one piece. So you're stuck with that neck angle. That's your neck angle no matter what. On a set neck, depending on the construction, I mean, it might be a little sketchy on a Les Paul because it's got a 10 and whatnot, but if it's just like a set neck that's put into a pocket, a standard pocket, then you could probably modify it the same way that I was talking about with a bolt-on, okay? The question really is, I mean, how deep into it do you want to get, you know what I mean? Because now you're looking at buying a new bridge. If it's an actual Floyd rose, it's probably going to be about $250 to $300 or whatever, shipped or whatever, and now you got to look at one hell of a modification, right? If you got to heat the neck up and take and take the neck off, separate the neck from the body and stuff, like on a set neck and stuff, you're really getting into a lot of labor costs. Okay, is it really worth it when you can just go out and buy a guitar with a Floyd on it for a few $100 used probably, or whatever, right? And there's also other considerations to take into account. If this guitar is something that you really like, it's one of your favorite guitars, you might want to think twice about doing something like this, because it's not going to feel like the same guitar by the time you're done with it, okay? It's not going to have this back angle, and that's a very distinct thing, especially when you're playing down at the lower frets and stuff like that. It's really quite different than playing something with a straight neck. So if you're doing it because you love the guitar to begin with, it might not be such a great idea, because it's going to be a completely different guitar, right? Now, one of the questions was about installing a Floyd on a Strat, okay? And they wanted to know how deep they had to make the well, or how deep they had to sink it into the body, basically, so that it would operate properly. And with Strats, I've seen some Strats where they're installed with no well at all, and I'm sure this will work on some Strats. And on other ones, I've seen wells in them. And basically what you want to do is, it all comes down to how the guitar is constructed in a couple different ways, and I'll show you here. Okay, so we'll draw our body again. Okay, side view of a body, and then we'll draw a straight neck on it. But what I'm going to do is, the neck's going to be sitting up, as it usually is with Strats. Okay, and then here's your headstock and your nut. Okay, now with a Strat, a basic Strat has a tremolo on it already. So as far as routing is concerned, you're pretty much halfway there, because the through hole here for the sustain block is already drilled, or is already routed. This cavity for the springs is already routed for you. So really, you might have to toy with this a little bit, but basically it's already there for you to work with, okay? So in order to put a Floyd Rose in this situation, it's really a lot less work. And then there's another thing to take in consideration, is a basic trem bridge is pretty much built almost the same as a Floyd Rose. It just doesn't have the fine tuning system and everything. So what I mean by that is, it consists of a flat base here and a string saddle on it. Now, like the Floyd Rose, the string saddle is sitting on this base here, and it's not on the top of the bridge like a tune-o-matic is. So you're a lot closer, you're a lot more in the ballpark here for, say, we'll show you with the Floyd Rose, basically. Same thing, right? So in order to find out how deep this Floyd Rose needs to go into the body, though, I kind of went into this on the Floyd Rose video for the Gravedigger, but I'll go through it again here just to make sure that everybody understands, because I might have missed a couple things, and I might have just took for granted that people understood it. So first thing that you need to do is, you have a standard flat bridge. You'll notice that it's mounted to the body a different way. Now, the only thing that a Floyd Rose does share with a tune-o-matic in terms of design is that it has posts. Okay, it doesn't have 6 small screws in line like a Stratocaster trem. Okay, so what we need to do is, we need to modify the body a little bit, and we need to find the spacing of those studs. You can find fret calculators out there and stuff, and they'll give you the exact measurement for the bridge from the nut. Okay, I'm not going to get into that, because like I said, it's different with different scale lengths and different with different guitars. So those are settings that you need, or those are measurements that you need to make sure you get from somewhere based on the type of guitar you're working on. Okay, so basically, you want to find out where those posts go, and you want to drill the holes for the posts for the bridge without doing any of the routing yet. And then what you need to do is drill it deep enough so that it's sitting flush with the top of the body. Okay, then you want to install the bridge and install 1 or 2 strings or whatever. You can even put on a couple of the tuners, you know what I mean, and keep a couple of the tuners on it, so you can just put those strings on. Because you need to pull them so that they're straight and they have a little bit of tension on them. So what you do is, you install the bridge with the with the posts all the way at the lowest position, okay? And then when you string these strings across here, what you want to do, I hate these damn Sharpies. Okay, say that's our string there. Obviously it's going to be a lot straighter than that. And these are our upper frets. So what you want to do is you want to take a measurement from the top of the last fret to the bottom of either of the E strings. And the reason why I say either of the E strings, it really doesn't matter. It just has to do with the radius. I tend to do all my measurements from the edge of the neck, so I want to make sure that I take them from the E strings, because the E string is going to be lower because of the radius of the neck than the G and the D strings, right? Because they're in the center. So I take a measurement from the bottom of the E string to the top of the last fret, and what you want to do is you want to take that measurement, and that's basically going to be how deep your well needs to be, okay? And the reason why I say that is because this bridge is in the lowest position. So when it's installed on the guitar and it's in the lowest position, I want to make sure that the string is just barely bottoming out on these frets, okay? And the reason why I want to do that is you don't want to get this thing on here, get it all routed, get it all going and everything, and then you string it up and you find out that you don't like the action and it can come down without buzzing, but the bridge is already in the lowest position. There's nothing you can do about it, right? That's that's something you want to completely try to avoid. So in order to do that, I just make sure that when it's in the lowest position, it's actually touching the fret, just barely, right? It's not going to be playable in the lowest position, but that's not really what you're going for. You're going for adjustability here, not being dead on whenever the bridge is in the bottom position, right? We have all kinds of room to adjust this bridge up. We don't have any room when it's in the bottom position to adjust it down. So we want to make sure that we're bottoming out there, okay? That's why you want to take the measurement from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string, and that's basically going to be the depth of your route. Okay, now let's have a look at the headstock side of things. So as you can see here, I've drawn two different types of headstocks. I've drawn the straight type of headstock. We all know the one we're talking about, the one that looks, Strat-like type of deal. And then I've drawn one with a back angle on it, the other common type of one. Okay, now the problem with the Floyd Rose and the difference that it has between all these other bridges is that it is a locking system. And being a system, it means it's comprised of, different components. The bridge being one, and then the locking nut being the other component of the system. Okay, now the thing is with a locking nut is in order to have enough strength for it to lock down and have enough room for the screws and whatnot that's required to lock the strings down at the nut, they're significantly wider usually than a normal standard nut would be on a guitar. Okay, so we run into a problem in some scenarios with this. So let's say if we have our locking nut here, let's kind of try and draw it here. Would go something like this, and then it would have like a block in here and then a bolt. Okay, now as you can see, if you go to fit this on here, you don't even have close to enough room. Okay, not gonna happen. So in this type of installation, you're gonna have to do some kind of modification, like you're gonna have to do some kind of a wedge or something here. And at the same time, you're going to have to make sure that you can still access the truss rod, right? So it's probably going to have to be a wedge on either side or whatever, and it's probably not going to look that nice. And same with down here. If you look at this here, you've only got this much room to put that locking nut. So once again, it's going to have to come out like this, and then you're going to have some kind of wedge underneath there in order to support the outside edge of this locking nut. Okay, if you don't and you try to screw it into here, well, you're going to be screwing in on an angle here, and then this thing is going to want to tip up, and it's just going to be a mess. You can't do that. Okay, so now there's another scenario we have to look at too. Does the nut come down into a slot? Okay, like this, like on some guitars it does. Okay, now we're looking at a different scenario. Okay, because in this type of scenario, if it comes down in a slot, what you're going to need to do anyways to fit this is you're going to need to cut this off flush here. So now you've got a little bit more real estate, but it looks like it's still not quite enough, so it's probably not going to work. However, in this scenario, once again, you're going to have to knock this front edge off because you need a good flat surface. Okay, so You knock that off flush, and then all of a sudden, it looks like this thing just might fit here, okay? It looks like you just might have enough room here to fit. And even if it sticks out a little bit, it doesn't matter, because where it's being screwed into the instrument is, you know, it's a nice flat area, so it's going to want to stay flat, okay? So really, it's not just all about the neck too. You have to look at the design of the headstock, how the nut sits in the headstock, all these different things. You know, and all this time you got to keep in mind, you know, that this has to be set at an optimal height, because you can't adjust the slots on these. I mean, it's a metal frame. I mean, you know, it is what it is. So you have to make sure that the nut itself is installed at the optimal height so that you get good action at the first fret. Okay, so that's looking at the other side of it. The be-all end-all, whether or not finding out a certain bridge will fit on your guitar, is measure, and measure accurately, okay? And a good thing to get, where is it? It's usually around here somewhere. I have it all, oh, here it is. Is a caliper, okay? It doesn't have to be a digital caliper. It just needs to be a good quality, accurate caliper, okay? These things, I mean, when you're building a guitar, these things are a must, because there's some things, some measurements, and these are the ones I'm getting into here. There's some measurements that have to be exact. I mean, they have to be within a few thousandths of an inch, you know, maybe 10 thousandths at the most, which is not much. 10 thousandths is about, it's about 3 sheets of paper, okay? Thick. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you're measuring this stuff accurately. Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here, but take care. Cheers.